Hey everybody, maybe this is the last COVID protocol video I'll ever have to make. Probably not, there's probably one more in us, but I want to say thank you to all of you for a couple of things. We just had an amazing Easter weekend where almost 1,600 people came through our doors. Feels kind of like old times, and amazing celebrations. Saw so many of you back for the first time, and the crowds are starting to swell and we're trying to adjust to those things. So I love everything about that, and I'm grateful that things are returning to something more familiar. And I want to say thank you especially for how you've responded to all of our COVID protocols along the way. It's a difficult thing to make judgment calls, but we've been just guided by our mission and our values. And honestly, I've found that even when you might disagree a little bit with a protocol that we've put in place, you've all been amazingly gracious and flexible, agile. I'm very grateful for your spirit and your attitude toward all of this. So obviously this past week, our governor has lifted the statewide mask mandate, still encouraging people to wear masks wherever they go, but it's not mandated. And actually, you may not know this, but there was never a mandate in the state of Indiana on churches. We were always free to do whatever we wanted to do. But with it being in the news, I wanted you to know how we're thinking about our next steps here. So a few principles. First, we think safety first. We want guests and you to be able to walk into a safe environment. And if that means some restrictions on our own rights, that's no big deal to us. Second, though, and this is important, we understand the restrictions that have been in place do have negative implications. It creates isolation, it limits the richness of relationship we can have with each other, and I see it limiting sometimes our full expression of worship to God. And so I'm motivated to lift and kind of actively get away from these restrictions as quickly as we safely can. Third thing I want you to hear is we make these decisions to try to protect the most vulnerable people from hospitalization and death. Listen, we don't think for a minute we will ever be able to say no germs will ever get spread at Suncrest. Everyone's completely safe, no risk at all. It's just not a realistic threshold. The threshold is protect vulnerable people from severe illness or death. And thankfully, with the way the vaccine rollout is going right now, I see that light at the end of the tunnel. So here's what we're going to do. On June the 1st, we are going to lift our mask requirement at Suncrest. Right now, you need to wear it when you walk in, when you're standing, when you're singing. We're going to keep that up until June 1st. By June 1st, everyone who wants to have access to the vaccine should have access to it, and we'll be guaranteed that the most vulnerable people will have access to it. So that's 8 weekends that are left in front of us with this mask requirement. Of course, if you want to keep wearing a mask after that, no problem. There's no need to have to go away from that if you want to wear a mask. Second, I want you to know that we are going to reduce some other restrictions right now because of kind of the swelling crowds and how we're adjusting to some relational things. So for example, we've been following a very strict 6-foot distancing between the chair pods and the worship space, and we're going to start inching those a little bit closer together. We believe we can do it safely while people are still wearing masks over this next 8 weeks, but it's important to us to be able to serve as many people as possible. So I'm excited about that. And if you're the kind of person who wants to start giving handshakes and hugs, I know I discouraged that early on. I'm fine with you doing that at this stage, and I just ask that you be sensitive to anyone who's not ready for it. Listen, that's kind of constantly our posture. We want to provide a rich relational environment, but we don't in any way want to shame people who are being a little more cautious than you are or need to be cautious for good reason for themselves. So there's, of course, always the online option. We love providing that for you as well. But I just wanted you to see where things are going and how excited I am about these next 2 months and the season after that. Thanks for working with us, Suncrest. See you this weekend.